The gunshot tore through Miguel's world before he understood what the sound meant. One moment, the 3-year-old was curled on the vinyl couch in the break room, clutching his worn, stuffed elephant, half asleep under the fluorescent lights. The next, glass was shattering somewhere down the hallway, and people were screaming, and his mama's voice was shouting something he couldn't understand through the chaos. Miguel ran. His small legs carried him through the corridor in his dinosaur pajamas, tears already streaming down his round cheeks, searching for the only person in the world who mattered. Mama! Mama! But the hospital had turned into a nightmare of noise and darkness, and strangers running past him without seeing him at all. He pushed open a door, any door, and stumbled inside. The man sitting on the examination table looked up, his dark eyes sharp despite the blood soaking through the shoulder of his white dress shirt. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then another. Gunshot cracked through the air, closer this time, and the man's expression changed. Come here. His voice was low, commanding, the kind of voice that expected obedience. Now. Miguel's instinct screamed danger, but a stronger instinct. The instinct of a child who'd learned early that some adults could be trusted and some couldn't, made him run toward the stranger instead of away. The door burst open. A man with a gun stepped through, his face twisted with intent that even a 3-year-old could recognize as wrong. The stranger on the table moved faster than someone bleeding should be able to move. He threw himself off the examination table and over Miguel's small body, covering him completely, one arm wrapping around the child's head to muffle the sound, the other braced against the cold linoleum floor. The gunshot was deafening. The stranger's body jerked once, a harsh exhale escaping him, but his grip on Miguel never loosened. Warm liquid. Blood. Miguel's brain supplied in a distant, clinical way that children shouldn't possess, dripped onto the back of his pajama shirt. Then there were more gunshots, different ones, and shouting, and heavy footsteps, and finally, silence. Boss, are you hit? Get him out. The stranger's voice was strained now, pain breaking through the control. The shooter. Now. Hands, gentle, surprisingly, lifted Miguel out from under the stranger's protective weight. The man who'd been shot twice was trying to sit up, his face pale, his jaw clenched so tight the muscle jumped. And then his mama was there. Miguel! Ana Beatriz Silva dropped to her knees and pulled her son against her chest, her hands running over him frantically, checking for injuries she wouldn't find. Meu Deus, meu amor, você está bem? Are you hurt? Baby, tell me. Mama. Miguel's voice was very small. He pointed at the stranger. He saved me. The bad man had a gun, and he covered me. Ana looked up. The man who'd saved her son was being supported by another man in an expensive dark suit, blood spreading across his back, now in addition to his shoulder. His eyes met hers, dark brown, intense, and holding something she couldn't name. Pain, yes, but also something else, something that looked almost like recognition. You're the nurse. His voice was rough, each word clearly costing him. From earlier. She had been. 3 hours ago, he'd walked into the ER with a gunshot wound to the shoulder, his face expressionless, his body language radiating a dangerous control that had made the other staff nervous. Anna had treated him with the same professional efficiency she gave every patient, cleaning the wound, administering antibiotics, noting that he'd refused police notification, or anything stronger than local anesthetic. She'd noticed other things too. The quality of his clothing, the expensive watch, the way he'd thanked her softly in Italian. Grazie, with an accent that spoke of old New York families. The way other men in dark suits had arrived and stood guard outside his room without needing to be told. She'd suspected he was connected. She'd chosen to do her job anyway. You need surgery. Anna's training kicked in even as her hands shook. That bullet in your back. No hospitals. The other man cut in, his voice sharp. We're leaving. Now. He'll die if we stay. The man's eyes were cold. Police are coming. Ambulances are coming. We can't be here. Anna looked at the man who'd used his body as a shield for her son. He was watching her, his breathing shallow, his face growing paler by the second. And in his eyes, she saw something that made her chest tighten. He wasn't expecting her to help. He was expecting her to turn away, to let him bleed out in some alley, to forget he'd ever protected her child. Miguel's small hand touched her face. Mama, he's the one who saved me. Welcome to Crimson Salvation, where the most dangerous men find their redemption in the smallest, most innocent places, and love becomes an act of defiance against the darkness. If this story has already gripped your heart, hit that subscribe button and like this video to support emotional journeys that matter. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. New York? São Paulo? Somewhere else entirely? We love hearing from you across the world. Now, let's go back to where this impossible night began. 4 hours earlier, at 3 a.m., Hell's Kitchen had been as close to silent as New York ever got. Ana Beatriz Silva stood at the nurse's station, reviewing charts under the harsh fluorescent lights, her dark brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Exhaustion settled deep in her bones. The overnight shift at St. Vincent's ER was brutal on the best nights. Tonight wasn't the best night. Miguel was asleep in the break room, curled on the couch where Ana had made a nest of hospital blankets. The overnight daycare had closed without warning 2 weeks ago, and Ana couldn't afford to miss shifts. So she brought him, let him sleep in the break room, prayed nothing traumatic happened on the nights he was there. She was a good nurse. She knew she was. But she was a better mother, and every choice felt like a betrayal of one role or the other. The automatic doors slid open. 3 men walked in. The one in the center moved with the careful precision of someone managing serious pain, one hand pressed to his left shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers and staining his white shirt. The 2 flanking him wore dark suits and expressions that made Anna's stomach tighten with recognition. She'd seen men like this before. In São Paulo, before she'd fled to America. Men who carried violence like cologne, subtle but unmistakable. Gunshot wound, the injured man said calmly, as if he were reporting a paper cut. Through and through, I think. Missed the bone. Anna didn't hesitate. Exam room 3. Sit down. Professional mode was easier than fear. She led him to the room, gestured to the examination table, and began assembling supplies. The 2 other men tried to follow, but she blocked the door. You wait outside. Ma'am, we need to... Outside, or I call security. The injured man's lips twitched. Declan, wait outside. They waited. Anna worked in silence, cutting away the ruined shirt, cleaning the wound with steady hands. It was through and through, like he'd said. Professional job, probably from a distance. The entry wound was small and clean. You were lucky, she said quietly. 2 inches right and it would have hit the subclavian artery. You'd have bled out before reaching the hospital. Luck. He repeated the word as if tasting it. Is that what you call it? She met his eyes. Dark brown, sharp as broken glass, but holding something she hadn't expected. Weariness. The kind of exhaustion that had nothing to do with blood loss. You're not going to ask how it happened? He watched her hands work. Would you tell me the truth? No. Then why? Waste both our time? Another flicker of something across his face. Amusement, maybe. Respect. Anna finished cleaning the wound, administered local anesthetic, began the sutures. Her hands didn't shake. They never did during procedures. It was only after, alone in the supply closet or the bathroom, that she let herself fall apart. "You're very good at this," he said softly. "I'm a nurse. It's my job to be good at this." "That's not what I meant." She didn't ask what he meant. She focused on each stitch, precise and even, the kind of work that would minimize scarring. Not that he probably cared about scars. "What's your name?" he asked. She shouldn't answer. Every instinct screamed at her to maintain distance, to finish the job and forget his face. But something about the quiet way he asked, without expectation or demand, made her respond. "Anna." "Dominic." They didn't shake hands. He simply watched her finish the sutures, watched her apply the bandage, watched her give him instructions, for care that they both knew he wouldn't follow in any normal way. "Grazie," he said again, that same soft Italian thank you from before. "Prego," Anna answered without thinking, the Italian response automatic from her years studying medicine in Europe. His eyebrows rose slightly. "You speak Italian?" "A little. Portuguese is my first language. Italian was easier to learn than English at first." "You're Brazilian." It wasn't a question. She nodded anyway, then immediately regretted confirming anything personal. But he didn't press. He simply stood, testing his shoulders' range of motion, and reached for his jacket. "The bill," Anna started, "will be taken care of." He pulled a money clip from his pocket, counted out several $100 bills, and set them on the counter. "For your discretion. I don't need. Consider it a thank you." His eyes met hers again. "For treating me like a person, not a problem." Then he was gone, his 2 guards falling into step behind him, and Anna was left alone in the exam room, staring at more money than she made in a week, wondering what she'd just gotten herself into. She'd found out 20 minutes later, when the gunfire started. Anna's fingers found the pulse point on Dominic's neck, her professional training overriding the chaos of emotions screaming through her chest. Thready, but present. He was conscious, but fading. His skin gone the color of old paper, his breathing shallow and rapid, classic signs of shock setting in. "Miguel, baby, go to the corner. Right now." Her voice was steady despite everything. Years of ER work had taught her that panic was contagious, especially to children. "Sit down and close your eyes. Don't look, okay?" "But Mama?" "Now, meu amor." The 3-year-old obeyed, scrambling to the corner and pressing his face against his knees, his small body trembling. The stuffed elephant was still clutched in one hand. Anna turned her attention back to Dominic. The man supporting him, Declan, he'd been called, was applying pressure to the shoulder wound, but the back wound was worse. She could see the exit hole through the torn fabric, blood pumping steadily. "Lay him down, on his side, now." "We need to move. Lay him down." Anna's voice cracked like a whip. "Or watch him die in the next 3 minutes. Your choice." Declan hesitated, then lowered Dominic carefully to the floor. The boss? And Anna understood now, with sickening clarity, that he was a boss, the kind of man who commanded. Empires built on violence. Didn't make a sound, but his jaw was clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. Anna dropped to her knees beside him, her hands already moving. She grabbed supplies from the crash cart someone had abandoned in the hallway. Gauze, tape, scissors. No time for sterile procedure. No time for anything except keeping him alive long enough to get somewhere that could do more than emergency field triage. "The bullet's still in there," she said, packing the wound tightly as she dared. "It probably hit the scapula, maybe cracked it. You're bleeding internally. You need surgery. Now." "No hospitals," Dominic managed, his voice barely above a whisper. "Can't. Then you'll die. Won't be the first time I should have." Something in the way he said it made Anna's hands pause for just a fraction of a second. There was history in those words. Loss. The kind of pain that had nothing to do with bullets. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. "Boss, we have 30 seconds before NYPD floods this building." Declan's voice was tight. "We need to move. Now." Anna looked at Miguel, still curled in the corner, and made a decision that would change everything. "My apartment," she heard herself say. "It's 10 minutes from here. I can keep him stable. I'm a nurse. I can do this." Both men stared at her. "Why would you do that?" Dominic's eyes locked on hers, searching for something. Motive, angle, trap. Anna looked at her son. "Because you saved my child. And because—" She swallowed. "Because I know what it's like to run from people who want to hurt you." The weight of her words hung in the air. Declan's eyes narrowed, but Dominic's expression softened just for a moment. Understanding passed between them, the kind that didn't need explanation. "Your address," Declan said curtly. She rattled it off. He was already on his phone, speaking in rapid-fire Italian, giving orders. Within 60 seconds, a plan had materialized. 2 of Declan's men would stay behind, create a distraction, give false information to police. The rest would escort Dominic, Anna, and Miguel out through the service entrance. "Can you walk?" Anna asked Dominic. "Have to." He pushed himself upright with Declan's help, his face going even paler, sweat beading on his forehead. But he stayed on his feet. Anna grabbed Miguel, lifting him into her arms despite the way her own exhausted body protested. "Keep your face against Mama's shoulder," she whispered. "Don't look at anything, okay?" "Okay, Mama." They moved through the hospital corridors like ghosts, Declan leading, 2 other guards flanking them. Anna's heart pounded so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. She'd spent 2 years hiding in New York, keeping her head down, avoiding attention. Now she was helping a Mafia boss escape a crime scene. Rodrigo would kill her if he ever found out. If he ever found her. But Rodrigo wasn't here. This man was. This man who'd thrown himself over her, son without hesitation, without knowing anything about them, except that a child was in danger. And that was enough. The service entrance opened onto an alley, where a black SUV idled. Declan practically pushed them inside. Dominic collapsed onto the back seat, his breathing labored. Anna climbed in beside him, Miguel still clinging to her. "Where to?" The driver's voice was flat, professional. Anna gave her address, a 5th-floor walk-up in a neighborhood where nobody asked questions because nobody wanted answers. The drive took 8 minutes. Each one felt like an hour. Anna kept 2 fingers on Dominic's pulse, monitoring, her other arm wrapped around Miguel. The boy had gone silent, his eyes wide, his small body rigid with the kind of shock that came from seeing things children shouldn't see. "Is the man gonna die, Mama?" Miguel whispered. "Not if I can help it. He was nice. He covered me so I wouldn't get hurt." Anna's throat tightened. "I know, baby. I know." The SUV pulled up outside. Her building. No elevator. Just stairs that suddenly seemed impossibly steep. Declan and another guard supported Dominic between them, practically carrying him. Anna led the way, keys shaking in her hand, Miguel on her hip. Her apartment was exactly what it looked like, a tiny 1-bedroom that smelled faintly of the Thai restaurant downstairs, with furniture from thrift stores and toys scattered across the worn carpet. The paint was peeling in one corner. The radiator clanked. The single window looked out onto a brick wall 3 feet away. It was a universe away from the world Dominic Castellano inhabited. Anna saw him take it in. The futon that served as her bed, the child's mattress on the floor in the corner, the kitchen that was barely more than a hot plate, and a mini fridge. "Bedroom," Anna said shortly, gesturing to the only actual room. "Put him on the bed." They did. Anna set Miguel down on his mattress in the main room. "Stay here, okay? Mama needs to help the man." "Will he be okay?" "I'm going to try very hard to make sure he is." In the bedroom, Declan had already cut away Dominic's shirt. The wound in his back looked worse under the harsh light of her single lamp. Anna washed her hands in the tiny bathroom, grabbed her personal medical supplies. The kit she'd assembled over months of careful saving, just in case Miguel ever needed emergency care. "Everyone out except Declan," she said. "I need space to work." The other guards filed out without question. Declan stayed, his expression unreadable. Anna laid out supplies: local anesthetic, forceps, sutures, antiseptic. Her hands were steady. They had to be. "This is going to hurt," she told Dominic. "I'm sorry." "Done worse to myself shaving," he muttered, but there was no humor in his eyes. She worked for 40 minutes, cleaning the wound, extracting bone fragments, locating the bullet. It had indeed hit the scapula, fragmenting, making extraction delicate work. Her fingers were slick with blood, her lower back screaming from bending over the bed, but she didn't stop. Dominic made almost no sound. Once, when she had to dig deeper than anticipated, his hand clenched into a fist on the blanket, his jaw locking, but he didn't cry out. The control was unnatural, learned. Finally, the bullet was out. She cleaned the wound thoroughly, packed it, sutured carefully. The shoulder wound she redressed, checking for signs of infection. Then IV fluids, antibiotics from her stash, pain medication. "You need to rest," Anna said quietly. "No moving for at least 24 hours, maybe 48. Not possible. Then you'll tear open everything I just fixed, and next time you might not be lucky enough to have a nurse with steady hands nearby." Their eyes met. Something passed between them again, that same strange understanding from the hospital. "Why are you doing this?" Dominic asked again, his voice rough with exhaustion and medication. "You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Anna Senda was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Yes, I do. You protected my son. That's everything." "I have a son," Dominic said suddenly, and the words seemed to surprise him as much as they surprised Anna. "Had. He died 4 years ago. He was 3. Same age as—" He trailed off, his eyes sliding closed. Anna's breath caught. Understanding crashed over her like a wave. That look in his eyes when he'd seen Miguel. That immediate, unthinking protection. It hadn't been strategy or calculation. It had been instinct. Grief. The ghost of a little boy who wasn't there anymore. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Me too." His voice was fading as the medication pulled him under. "Me too." He fell asleep. Anna watched his chest rise and fall for a moment, ensuring the breathing was stable, then stumbled out to the main room. Miguel had fallen asleep on his mattress, the stuffed elephant tucked under his chin. Declan stood by the window, looking out at nothing. He turned when Anna entered. "You'll stay here?" she asked. "I'll stay nearby. Others will be positioned around the building." He studied her. "You're in danger now, you understand that? Anyone who saw you leave with us, anyone who connects you to the boss." "I've been in danger for 2 years." Anna cut him off quietly. "This is nothing new." Something flickered across Declan's face. Curiosity, maybe. But he didn't press. He simply nodded once and left. And Anna was alone with her sleeping son and a Mafia boss bleeding in her bed, and the crushing realization that she'd just crossed a line there was no coming back from. She pulled a blanket over Miguel, then sank onto the futon, her body finally allowing itself to shake. Her hands trembled. Her breath came in gasps, She pressed her palms to her face and let herself fall apart, silently, the way she'd learned to do in the 2 years since she'd fled São Paulo, with nothing but her son and a desperate hope for something better. Through the thin wall, she could hear Dominic's breathing, steady, alive. Her son was alive. This stranger was alive. And for tonight, that would have to be enough. Dominic woke to sunlight cutting through unfamiliar curtains and the smell of coffee. For a moment, he didn't remember where he was. Then pain radiated from his shoulder and back, sharp and immediate, and memory flooded in. The hospital, the shooting, the child, the nurse who'd offered her home to a stranger bleeding out on her floor. He tried to sit up. His body informed him, in no uncertain terms, that this was a terrible idea. "Don't move." Anna appeared in the doorway, a mug in each hand, her dark hair loose around her shoulders now instead of pulled back. She looked exhausted, shadows under her brown eyes, her thin frame seeming even more fragile in the morning light filtering through the cheap curtains. "How long?" His voice came out rough, unused. 18 hours. It's almost noon." She set one mug on the bedside table. Water, not coffee. "You need to stay hydrated. The IV bag is empty, but I can't exactly get more without questions." Dominic looked around the room properly now. Small. The bed took up most of the space. A dresser with 3 drawers, one handle missing. A lamp that probably came from a sidewalk sale. The walls were thin enough that he could hear someone's television next door, a game show with canned laughter. This was where she lived, where she raised her son, on night shift wages and whatever else she could scrape together. "Where's the boy?" he asked. "Miguel's at a neighbor's. Mrs. Chen watches him sometimes when I need." Anna trailed off, her cheeks coloring slightly. "When I need to handle things. Things like a Mafia boss recovering from gunshot wounds in her bed." "You should have let Declan take me," Dominic said. "You put yourself at risk. You put yourself at risk for my son." Anna's voice was quiet but firm. "Without hesitation, without knowing us. So we're even. We're not even close to even." She studied him for a long moment. "You said you had a son, that he died." Dominic's jaw tightened. He hadn't meant to say that. The medication, the blood loss, the way she'd looked at him, it had all loosened something he kept locked tight. "I don't talk about him," he said finally. "Okay." Anna didn't push. She simply picked up the coffee mug she'd set down for herself and took a sip. "I need to check your wounds. Can you sit forward?" Slowly. He could. Barely. Every muscle in his back screamed protest, but he managed to shift enough for her to access the bandages. Her hands were gentle but efficient, peeling away the dressing, examining her work from the night before. "No infection yet. That's good." She cleaned the area, applied fresh bandages. "You're healing faster than most people would. But you still can't move much, not for at least another day. I have a business to run. Your business can wait 24 hours. You don't understand. I understand that if you tear these stitches, you'll bleed out before anyone can get you to a real hospital." Anna's eyes met his, unflinching. "And I understand that your men have already been here twice this morning, checking on you. Declan brought food. He also brought clothes." She gestured to a bag in the corner. "So whatever empire you're running, it seems to be functioning without you for the moment." Dominic found himself almost smiling. Almost. "You're bossy for someone who weighs about 90 pounds. I'm Brazilian. We're born bossy." But there was no humor in her expression. "And I weigh more than 90 pounds, barely." The truth of that sat heavy between them. She was too thin. The kind of thin that came from skipping meals to make sure a child ate. from working double shifts and surviving on coffee and willpower. "When did you last eat?" Dominic asked. "I'm fine." "That's not what I asked." Anna set down the medical supplies. "Yesterday, before my shift, Miguel needed new shoes and the landlord raised rent and she stopped, her cheeks flushing. That's not your concern. Declan brought enough food for an army. Eat something." "I don't need... eat." His voice carried command, the tone he used when he expected obedience. "Or I'll get up and make you eat, and we'll both regret that." For a moment he thought she'd argue, but then her shoulders sagged slightly, and she nodded. She left the room, returning moments later with a container of pasta that smelled better than anything Dominic had encountered in this neighborhood. She ate standing up, small bites, the way someone did when they weren't used to eating without watching for danger. Dominic recognized the behavior. He'd grown up with it. "How long have you been in New York?" he asked. 2 years. Running from something. It wasn't a question. Anna's hand stilled halfway to her mouth. "How did you..." "I've been running my whole life. I know what it looks like." Dominic shifted slightly, testing his range of motion. "The ex-husband?" Her eyes widened. "How do you know about..." "You're terrified of men in uniform. You froze when the police sirens got close last night. And you said you know what it's like to run from people who want to hurt you." He paused. "Cop? Military? Military police. In Brazil." Anna's voice was barely audible. "Rodrigo. We were married for 2 years. I thought I could fix him. That if I loved him enough, he'd stop." She cut herself off, shaking her head. "It doesn't matter." "It matters." "Why?" "You don't know me. After you heal, you'll leave, and we'll never see each other again." Would they? Dominic wasn't sure. Something about this woman, about her son, had lodged under his skin like a splinter. The door to the apartment burst open. Miguel's voice rang out, high and clear. "Mama! Mrs. Chen gave me dumplings!" The 3-year-old appeared in the bedroom doorway, clutching a small container, his dark eyes going wide when he saw Dominic awake. "You're not dead." The joy in his voice was pure, uncomplicated by adult understanding of what death actually meant. "Not dead," Dominic confirmed. Miguel approached cautiously, the way children did with large dogs they weren't sure about. "Does it still hurt? Where the bad man shot you?" "Miguel," Anna started, but Dominic cut her off. "Yeah, it hurts, but your mama fixed me up. She's a good doctor." "She's a nurse," Miguel corrected seriously. "Nurses are different than doctors. Mama told me." "You're right, my mistake." Miguel climbed onto the bed, carefully, as if he understood instinctively that sudden movements would cause pain. He sat cross-legged near Dominic's feet, studying him with that unblinking intensity only small children possessed. "Why did you save me?" Miguel asked. "You don't even know my name." Dominic's throat tightened. "I didn't need to know your name." "But why? How did you explain to a 3-year-old that you'd spent 4 years trying to atone for not being there when your own son needed you most? That every child in danger was Marco's face, Marco's voice, Marco calling for a father who'd been too busy building an empire to notice his son was dying? Because it was the right thing to do," Dominic said finally. Miguel considered this. Then he scooted closer and very gently patted Dominic's uninjured arm. "Thank you for saving me. You're nice." The word hit Dominic like a bullet. Nice. When was the last time anyone had called him that? When was the last time he'd done anything that could be called nice? "I'm not," he started, but Miguel was already talking again. "Do you want to see my elephant? His name is Trunks. He's very old. Mama says he was hers when she was little, And now he's mine. Before Dominic could respond, the stuffed elephant was being placed carefully on his chest. It was worn nearly bald in places, one ear hanging by threads, the kind of toy that had been loved hard and long. "He's a good elephant," Dominic said seriously. Miguel beamed. "Do you want to hold him? He makes people feel better when they're sick." "Miguel, let Mr. Dominic rest," Anna began, but Dominic was already accepting the elephant, holding it with a gentleness that surprised even himself. "Thank you," he said to Miguel. "That's very kind of you." The boy stayed for another 10 minutes, chattering about dumplings and Mrs. Chen's cat, and a cartoon he'd watched. Anna tried several times to usher him out, but Dominic found he didn't mind. The child's presence was soothing, uncomplicated. Miguel didn't look at him and see a killer or a boss or someone to fear. He saw the man who'd protected him, and that was enough. When Anna finally got Miguel settled in the other room with a coloring book, she returned to find Dominic still holding the stuffed elephant, staring at it with an expression she couldn't read. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "He doesn't understand boundaries yet." "It's fine." Dominic carefully set the elephant on the bedside table. "He's a good kid. You're doing a good job with him." Anna's eyes filled unexpectedly. She turned away, busying herself with the medical supplies, but her hands were trembling. "Did I say something wrong?" Dominic asked. "No, it's just—" She drew a shaky breath. "No one said that to me in a long time. That I'm doing a good job. Most days I feel like I'm failing him. Like I'm not enough." "You're enough," Dominic said, and meant it. "You're more than enough." She looked at him then. Really looked at him. And something shifted in the air between them. Understanding. Recognition. Two people who'd both lost things they couldn't get back, trying to protect what they had left. Outside the window, a siren wailed past. Anna flinched instinctively. Dominic noticed. "He's looking for you," Dominic said quietly. "The ex-husband. That's why you're here, in this neighborhood, working nights, staying invisible." Anna nodded, not trusting her voice. "Does he know you're in New York?" "I don't think so. I was careful. New name, cash. Only no social media, no—" "But you're not sure?" "I'm never sure." Her voice broke on the last word. "I'm never safe. Miguel's never safe. We're just running. Always running." Dominic was quiet for a long moment. Then, "What if you didn't have to run anymore?" Anna's head snapped up. "What do you mean?" "I mean that I have resources, connections. I can make sure he never finds you." "I don't want—" "This isn't charity," Dominic cut in. "You saved my life. Let me return the favor." Anna stared at him, and for the first time since this impossible night had begun, Dominic saw something besides exhaustion in her eyes. He saw hope. Fragile, terrified hope. "I'll think about it," she whispered. It was enough. For now. The nightmare came on the third night. Anna woke to the sound of thrashing from her bedroom, followed by a choked-off cry that made her heart lurch. She was on her feet before conscious thought caught up, moving through the dark apartment toward the noise. Dominic was sitting, upright in bed, his chest heaving, sweat soaking through the clean shirt Declan had brought. His hands gripped the blanket so tightly his knuckles had gone white. "Hey." Anna approached slowly, the way she would a spooked animal. "Hey, you're okay. You're safe." His eyes found hers in the darkness. For a moment, he didn't seem to see her. Then recognition clicked in, and he exhaled shakily. "Sorry. I didn't mean to wake you." "What were you dreaming about?" "Nothing." He released the blanket, flexed his fingers. "Old ghosts." Anna sat on the edge of the bed, without asking permission. 3 days of caring for him had eroded the boundaries between them. She'd seen him at his weakest, had literally held his life in her hands. Formal distance felt ridiculous now. "You called out a name," she said quietly. "Marco." Dominic went very still. "You heard that. The walls are thin. I hear everything." She paused. "Was that your son's name?" For a long time, he didn't answer. Anna thought maybe she'd pushed too far, crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Then Dominic spoke, his voice rough. "Marco Alessio Castellano. He would have been 7 this year." The words came slowly, as if each one cost something. He was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia when he was 2. We fought it for 18 months. Chemo, radiation, clinical trials. Everything. Anna's throat tightened. "I'm so sorry." His mother, my wife, Chiara, she begged me to be there more, to put family above business. I kept saying I would, kept promising that once we got through this treatment or that surgery, I'd step back. I'd be present. Dominic's laugh was bitter, self-loathing. I was building an empire, expanding territory, making moves that couldn't wait, or so I told myself. He fell silent. Anna waited, knowing there was more. "He died while I was in Chicago closing a deal." The words were barely audible. "Chiara called me 12 times. I didn't answer. I was in a meeting, making sure the outfit understood our terms, making sure they knew the Castellano family wasn't to be disrespected." His hands clenched into fists. "By the time I got her message, Marco had been dead for 6 hours. Dominic, he asked for me. At the end, Chiara told me later. He kept saying, 'Where's Papa?' And she had to tell him I wasn't coming, that I was busy." He looked up at Anna, and the anguish in his eyes was so raw it hurt to witness. "I was busy. My son was dying, and I was busy." Anna reached out, instinctively, and covered his fist with her hand. "You didn't know." "I should have known. I should have been there. That's what fathers do. They show up." He turned his hand over, gripping hers tightly. "Chiara left me 3 weeks after the funeral. Said she couldn't look at me without seeing everything we'd lost. Said I'd chosen the life over our son, and she'd never forgive me for it. She was grieving. She was right." Dominic's voice cracked. "I did choose the life. I chose power and respect, and building something that would last. And what did it get me? My son in the ground and my wife gone, and 4 years of waking up every night to his voice calling for me." The apartment was so quiet, Anna could hear Mrs. Chen's television through the wall, a late-night infomercial selling cookware. Normal life, continuing around this moment of devastating honesty. "Is that why you protected Miguel?" she asked softly. "Because of Marco?" "I see him everywhere." Dominic's thumb moved against her palm, an unconscious gesture. "Every child Miguel's age. At first it was torture. Then it became, I don't know, a mission, maybe. If I couldn't save my own son, I could save others. It doesn't bring him back. But it's something." Anna understood then. The immediate, unthinking way he'd thrown himself over Miguel. The gentleness with a 3-year-old who reminded him of everything he'd lost. This wasn't strategy or calculated protection. This was grief turned into action. Guilt transformed into a kind of desperate atonement. "You're a good man," she said. Dominic's laugh was harsh. "You don't know what I've done. The things I've ordered. The people who've died because of decisions I made. I know you took 2 bullets protecting my son. I know you've been gentle with him, patient, kind. I know you're lying in my bed right now instead of some fortress somewhere, because you won't risk leading danger to your own people while you're vulnerable." Anna squeezed his hand. That tells me who you are. It tells you who I want to be. That's different. Is it? They looked at each other in the dim light filtering through the curtains. The distance between them felt both infinite and non-existent. You should go back to sleep, Dominic said finally. You have work tomorrow. I called in, told them I had the flu. Anna didn't move. Someone needs to watch you. Make sure you don't do something stupid like try to leave before you're healed. Declan doesn't know how to check for infection or change surgical dressings. She paused. And I don't think you want your men seeing you like this. Vulnerable. He couldn't argue with that. In his world, weakness was an invitation for betrayal. Showing pain, showing grief, showing anything human, it all carried risk. Why are you helping me? Dominic asked. Really, beyond the obvious debt. Anna was quiet for a moment, considering. Because I see you, she said finally. Not the boss. Not the dangerous man everyone fears. I see the father who lost his son and never recovered. I see someone carrying weight that's crushing him. And I think... She hesitated. I think maybe we're more alike than we are different. How so? We're both running from ghosts. Yours are just internal. The truth of it settled between them, heavy and undeniable. A small voice came from the doorway. Mama? I heard talking. Miguel stood there in his dinosaur pajamas, clutching Trunks the elephant, his eyes heavy with sleep. It's okay, baby. Go back to bed. But Miguel was already padding over to the bed, climbing up with the confidence of a child who'd decided these people were safe. He settled between Anna and Dominic, the elephant tucked under his chin. Is Mr. Dominic having nightmares again? Miguel asked, his voice matter of fact. I have nightmares sometimes too. Dominic looked at the child, something shifting in his expression. You do? Uh-huh. About the bad times. Before Mama and me came here. Miguel yawned. But Mama says nightmares can't hurt us. They're just our brain being scared of old things. Your Mama's very smart. I know. Miguel snuggled closer, completely unself-conscious. Within minutes, his breathing had evened out into sleep. Anna made to move him, but Dominic shook his head slightly. Let him stay, if that's okay with you. There were 1,000 reasons this was a bad idea, 1,000 ways this could go wrong. But Anna looked at her son sleeping peacefully, then at the man beside them whose face had softened in a way she'd never seen before, and she couldn't bring herself to disturb this moment. Okay, she whispered, but just for a little while. They sat there in the darkness, a strange, impossible family. The runaway mother, the grieving boss, and the child who somehow made everything feel less broken. Outside, New York continued its endless noise, but inside Anna's small apartment, there was only quiet breathing and the fragile beginning of something that felt almost like peace. Anna, Dominic said softly, careful not to wake Miguel. Yeah? Thank you. For this. For not being afraid of me. I am afraid of you, she admitted. But not for the reasons you think. What do you mean? She looked at him, really looked at him, and spoke the truth she'd been avoiding since that first night in the ER. I'm afraid of how easy it would be to depend on you, to let myself believe that someone like you could protect someone like me. She swallowed. I've spent 2 years learning to survive alone, teaching myself not to need anyone. And then you show up and save my son and look at him like he's precious and... Her voice broke. It scares me. Because needing people has only ever hurt me before. Dominic was quiet for a long moment. Then, I can't promise I won't hurt you. My world is violent and complicated and full of people who'd use you to get to me. But I can promise that if you let me, I'll do everything in my power to keep you and Miguel safe. Why? Why do you care? Because when I look at your son, I see a second chance. Not to save Marco, nothing can do that. But to be the kind of man my son needed me to be, and I wasn't. He touched Miguel's hair gently, the gesture achingly tender. And when I look at you, I see someone who deserves better than running and hiding and surviving on scraps. Anna felt tears sliding down her cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. I'm in your world now, aren't I? She whispered. The moment I brought you here, I crossed a line I can't uncross. Yes. At least he was honest. Anna appreciated that. Then I guess we figure this out together, she said. Together, Dominic repeated, and something in his voice made her chest tighten. They stayed like that until dawn started to gray the sky outside. Anna eventually dozed off, her head dropping to rest against Dominic's uninjured shoulder. He stayed awake, watching over the woman and child sleeping beside him, and for the first time in 4 years, the nightmare didn't come back. In the morning, Declan would arrive with news. The threat assessment, the security measures that needed implementing, the reality of what happened when a civilian got tangled up with the Castellano family. But for now, in the quiet hours before sunrise, Dominic let himself pretend that this could last. That maybe, just maybe, he'd found something worth protecting more than his empire. The call came on the 6th day. Dominic was in the tiny living room, Miguel showing him how to build a tower out of mismatched plastic blocks, when Declan's voice cut through the phone with the kind of urgency that made every muscle in Dominic's healing body tense. We have a problem. Anna was in the kitchen area, washing dishes in the miniature sink. She looked up at Dominic's tone when he answered, her hands stilling in the soapy water. Talk to me, Dominic said quietly, his eyes already moving to Miguel, calculating exit routes, threat assessments, the way he always did when danger approached. Someone's been asking questions at St. Vincent's. Man with a Brazilian accent, showing a photo of a woman and child. Declan paused. He's claiming to be the husband. Says his wife kidnapped their son 2 years ago, that he's been searching for them. The blood drained from Anna's face. She'd clearly heard enough of the one-sided conversation to understand. The glass she'd been washing slipped from her fingers and shattered in the sink. Miguel looked up from his blocks. Mama? It's okay, baby. Anna's voice was remarkably steady, but Dominic could see her hands shaking. Just dropped a glass. Keep playing with Mr. Dominic. She moved to the bedroom, and Dominic followed, leaving Miguel contentedly stacking blocks. In the small bedroom, Anna sat on the edge of the bed, her whole body rigid with the kind of fear that came from lived experience, not imagination. He found me, she whispered. I was so careful. I changed everything. How did he... The hospital. Dominic's jaw tightened. Someone recognized you from that night, or saw security footage. Declan's checking, but it doesn't matter how. Anna looked up at him, and the terror in her eyes was visceral. He found me, and now he'll take Miguel. He has connections, Dominic. Police, military, judges who owe him favors. He'll say I kidnapped our son. He'll say I'm unstable, that I... Her breath hitched. He'll take him, and I'll never see my baby again. Dominic knelt in front of her, ignoring the pull of still healing wounds. That's not going to happen. You don't know Rodrigo. I don't care who he is. Dominic's voice was flat, absolute. He's not taking your son. I won't allow it. You can't just... Anna stopped, really looking at him. What are you planning? The silence stretched. Dominic knew what she was asking, knew what she feared. In his world, problems like this had simple solutions. A man threatening his people disappeared, quietly. Permanently. No witnesses, no evidence, no trial. I can make this go away, he said carefully. Permanently. Anna's eyes widened. I mean he'd never bother you again. You mean you'd kill him? The word hung between them, stark and undeniable. Dominic didn't flinch from it. This was what he was, what he'd always been. Violence as a tool, death as a solution. But Anna was looking at him with something that made his chest tighten. Not fear, disappointment. No, she said firmly. Absolutely not. Anna, I didn't save your life so you could take someone else's for me. I don't care what Rodrigo's done. I won't have blood on my hands. You wouldn't have to. I would. Her voice broke. Every time I looked at Miguel, I'd know. I'd know what was done in our name. What you did to protect us. She stood, pacing the small space. There has to be another way. There might not be. Then we find one anyway. Dominic stared at her. In his world, people begged for his protection. Begged him to eliminate threats. No one had ever told him no when he offered to solve their problems the only way he knew how. He's dangerous, Dominic said quietly. He hurt you. He'll hurt you again if he gets the chance. I know. Anna's hands clenched. But I left Brazil to give Miguel a better life. A life where violence isn't the answer to everything. Where people solve problems without... She gestured helplessly. I can't teach him that killing is wrong if the man protecting us kills for us. Something shifted in Dominic's chest. Understanding. Painful, uncomfortable understanding. She was asking him to be different, to find another way, even though the other way was harder, riskier, less certain. She was asking him to be the man he'd never been for Marco. Okay, he said finally. We do this your way. Legal, clean, no bodies. Relief washed over Anna's face. Really? Really. He reached for his phone. But that means we need to move fast and smart. Declan, you still there? Heard, everything. Declan's voice was crisp. I'll start pulling together what we need. Financial records, history of abuse, evidence that'll stand up in court. And get me Marcus Levin. Tell him I need the best family law attorney in New York. Money's not an issue. Boss, are you sure about this? The clean way takes time. If this guy has the connections, she says, then we need better connections. Dominic's voice hardened. Call in every favor I'm owed. Every judge, every prosecutor, every politician who's taken our money over the years. We do this right, but we do it thoroughly. He ended the call and looked at Anna. You're going to need to tell me everything. Every time he hit you, every threat he made, every witness who saw. It won't be easy. I know. Anna wiped her eyes. But it's better than the alternative. From the living room, Miguel's voice called out. Mama, come see. My tower is taller than Mr. Dominic. Anna managed to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Dominic caught her hand before she could leave the room. I need you to understand something, he said quietly. If it comes down to your safety or his life, I'll choose your safety every time, legal or not. Dominic, I'm not Marco's father anymore. I can't save him, but I can save you and Miguel, and I will, whatever it takes. He paused. I'm just hoping it doesn't come to that. Anna looked at their joined hands, then up at his face. Thank you for trying it my way. Don't thank me yet. We don't know if it'll work. But he'd try. For her, for Miguel, for the ghost of the man he should have been 4 years ago. He'd try. The next 48 hours moved with the precision of a military operation. Declan brought lawyers, not one, but 3, each specializing in different aspects of what they needed. Immigration, family law, criminal defense, just in case. They set up in Anna's tiny apartment, turning it into a war room papered with documents and legal briefs. Anna told her story, over and over, to each lawyer, in excruciating detail. The first time Rodrigo hit her. The escalation. The night she'd fled with Miguel, leaving everything behind except a bag of clothes and her son's favorite toy. Dominic listened from the bedroom, supposedly resting but unable to stop himself from hearing every word. Each detail made his hands clench harder. Each description of violence made him more certain that his way, the permanent way, would be cleaner, simpler, more effective. But he'd promised. Miguel sensed the tension. The 3-year-old became clingy, refusing to let Anna out of his sight, having accidents he hadn't had in months. One night, Anna found him trying to pack his few toys into a plastic bag. "What are you doing, baby?" "Getting ready to run again." Miguel's voice was small. "Like before, when we left our house and went on the big airplane." Anna gathered him into her arms, and Dominic heard her crying through the thin wall. Quiet, desperate sobs she tried to muffle so her son wouldn't hear. He found her an hour later, after Miguel had fallen asleep. She was sitting in the dark kitchen, a cold cup of tea in front of her. "This is my fault," she whispered. "I brought this to your door. I should have stayed invisible. Should have—" "Stop." Dominic sat across from her. "You saved my life. That has consequences. Some good, some complicated. But none of this is your fault. Miguel's regressing. The lawyers say Rodrigo could argue that I've made him unstable. That bouncing around has hurt his development. They might use it against me. They might try. But we have evidence now. Medical records that Declan obtained from Brazil. Your hospital visits, Miguel's, all matching your timeline of abuse. Witness statements from neighbors who heard the fights. Police reports you filed that were mysteriously dismissed." He reached across the small table, covered her hand with his. "You're not alone in this anymore." "I'm scared," Anna admitted. "Not for me. For Miguel. If Rodrigo gets custody, even temporary, I'll never—" "He won't. You can't promise that." "No," Dominic agreed. "But I can promise I'll do everything in my power to prevent it." Anna's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and went white. "What is it?" She turned the phone so he could see. A text from an unknown number. A photo of the exterior of her building, taken from street level. And a message. "Found you. See you soon, mu amor." Dominic was on his feet instantly. Every instinct. Screaming threat assessment, protection protocol, defensive measures. "Pack a bag. You and Miguel. 5 minutes." "What? You're not staying here. Not with him watching." He was already texting Declan, already calculating. "I have a safe house in Brooklyn. Secure building, guards, everything you need." "Dominic, I can't just—" 5 minutes, Anna. This isn't negotiable." His voice was hard now, command instead of request. "He knows where you are. That makes this place a trap, not a home." She must have heard the urgency, the underlying current of barely controlled violence in his voice. She nodded and moved to wake Miguel. The child was groggy, confused, clutching trunks as Anna dressed him in warm clothes. Dominic called Declan, issued orders in rapid Italian, and within 10 minutes, 2 black SUVs were outside. They moved quickly, Declan's men forming a protective barrier. Miguel, still half asleep, curled against Anna's chest. Dominic ignored the pain in his back, his entire focus on scanning rooftops, windows, parked cars, anywhere a threat could emerge. As they pulled away from the building, he saw him. A man standing across the street. Tall, military posture, watching the SUV with cold calculation. Their eyes met for a brief second before the vehicle turned the corner. Rodrigo Torres, former military police, current nightmare. Dominic pulled out his phone. Boss? Declan's voice. I want everything on Torres. Military record, current employment, known associates, where he's staying, what he eats for breakfast. Everything. He paused, watching Anna hold their sleeping son. And Declan? Make sure our lawyers know we're fighting dirty. Legal, but dirty. Find every skeleton in his closet and drag them into daylight. Understood. The safe house was a fortress disguised as a brownstone. 3 stories, reinforced windows, guards in plain clothes positioned at every entrance. Anna looked overwhelmed as they were shown inside, but she didn't protest. Miguel woke up in the new bedroom, took one look around, and started crying. Not loud, just quiet tears that broke something in Dominic's chest. I don't want a new room, the boy whispered. I want to go home. Anna held him, murmuring reassurances, but Dominic could see the truth in her eyes. Home wasn't safe anymore. Home might never be safe again. Unless he made it safe. One way or another. The court date came faster than expected. Rodrigo had filed an emergency custody motion claiming parental kidnapping and child endangerment. He had paperwork. Forged, Dominic's lawyers said, but convincing. He had character witnesses, paid, but willing to testify. He had the advantage of being a decorated military officer reporting a crime. Anna had the truth. Sometimes that wasn't enough. Dominic stood in the bathroom of the safe house, buttoning his shirt for court, when Miguel appeared in the doorway. Are you going to save my mama? The 3-year-old's voice was serious, older than his years. Dominic knelt, to the boy's level, a gesture that had become automatic. I'm going to try very hard. The bad man wants to take me away. Mama says he's my papa, but I don't remember him. Miguel's lower lip trembled. I don't want to go with him. I want to stay with you and Mama. The words hit Dominic like a physical blow. Stay with you and Mama. As if they were a unit, a family. Miguel, I need you to be very brave today, Dominic said carefully. There might be people who ask you questions. About your mama, about where you've been living. You just tell the truth, okay? Tell them exactly what you remember. Will you be there? I can't be in the courtroom, but I'll be right outside. He touched the boy's shoulder. And no matter what happens, I promise you, I won't let anyone hurt you or your mama. Miguel hugged him suddenly, fiercely, his small arms wrapping around Dominic's neck. You're like a papa, he whispered. The good kind. Dominic's throat closed. He held the child carefully, thinking of Marco, thinking of all the hugs he'd been too busy for, all the moments he'd missed. You're like a good son, he managed. The very best kind. Anna found them like that. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hands shaking. But she was dressed in the conservative suit Dominic's lawyers had provided. She looked terrified and determined in equal measure. We should go, she said quietly. The courthouse was everything Anna had feared. Cold, imposing, full of people in expensive suits who held her son's future in their hands. Rodrigo was already there. Anna's breath caught when she saw him. He looked the same. Tall, handsome in a brutal way, his military bearing evident even in civilian clothes. When his eyes found her across the hallway, she felt 14 again, helpless and trapped. But then Dominic's hand pressed against the small of her back. A reminder. You're not alone. Mrs. Torres. Rodrigo's voice was smooth, pleasant. The voice he used in public when witnesses were watching. It's been so long. Don't speak to my client. Marcus Levin, Dominic's attorney, stepped between them. All communication goes through legal counsel. I just want to see my son. Surely a father has that right. A father who spent 2 years terrorizing his wife? Who put her in the hospital 3 times? Marcus's voice was cold. We have documentation, medical records, police reports your friends tried to bury. Rodrigo's pleasant expression cracked for just a moment. Lies. She's manipulated you all. Mr. Torres, a woman's voice cut in, the judge's clerk. You're wanted in chambers. The emergency hearing was held in the judge's private chambers, not open court. A mercy, Dominic's lawyers said. Less public, more focused on facts. Ana sat at a table across from Rodrigo, separated by lawyers and legal documents and 2 years of running. She could feel his eyes on her, that familiar weight of ownership, possession. She wanted to run, wanted to grab Miguel from the waiting room and disappear again. But running hadn't worked. Running had just meant looking over her shoulder forever. Judge Patricia Morrison was in her 60s, gray-haired, sharp-eyed. She'd seen everything in 30 years on the family court bench. She wasn't easily fooled. Mr. Torres, you're claiming your wife kidnapped your son 2 years ago. The judge flipped through documents. Yet you filed no missing persons report, no Amber Alert, no international custody complaint. Why is that? I was trying to find them privately. I didn't want to involve authorities. Or you knew they had good reason to run. Judge Morrison looked at Ana. Mrs. Torres, you have quite a bit of evidence here. Medical records showing repeated injuries consistent with domestic violence, police reports filed and subsequently dismissed, witness statements from former neighbors. She paused. Why didn't you seek help through official channels? Ana's voice shook, but she met the judge's eyes. Because he is official channels, Your Honor. He's military police. His friends are police, judges, prosecutors. I filed reports. They disappeared. I sought restraining orders. They were denied. I tried to leave legally, and he told me... Her voice broke. He told me if I ever tried to take Miguel, he'd kill me and claim self-defense, and everyone would believe him. That's a lie, Rodrigo started, but his own lawyer touched his arm, silencing him. Judge Morrison studied them both. I'm ordering a full investigation. Child Services will interview Miguel, independently verify these medical records. And Mr. Torres, her voice hardened. If I find you've been stalking or threatening Mrs. Torres or anyone associated with this case, I'll hold you in contempt so fast your head will spin. Am I clear? Yes, Your Honor. Rodrigo's voice was tight with barely controlled rage. Mrs. Torres retains full custody pending investigation. Supervised visitation only for Mr. Torres, and only if the child welfare assessment recommends it. The gavel came down. We reconvene in 2 weeks. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. Ana stood on shaking legs. Rodrigo moved toward her as they left chambers, his face a mask of cold fury. You think this is over? He hissed, low enough that only she could hear. You think some New York judge can keep me from what's mine? I will destroy you. I will take everything. Step away from her. Now. Dominic's voice cut through the courthouse hallway like a blade. He'd been waiting outside chambers, unable to enter, but positioned exactly where he'd see everyone exit. Rodrigo turned, sized him up. And who the hell are you? Someone who's very interested in your future, Mr. Torres, or lack thereof. Dominic moved between them, his presence overwhelming in the narrow hallway. Touch her again, threaten her again, even think about her wrong, and I will make it my personal mission to ensure you regret it. Is that a threat? It's a fact. Rodrigo laughed, but there was uncertainty in his eyes now. He'd faced down criminals in São Paulo, corruption in the military courts, but he'd never faced someone like Dominic Castellano, someone who could smile politely while promising destruction. Come on, Ana. Dominic offered her his arm. Miguel's waiting. They walked away, leaving Rodrigo standing in the courthouse hallway, impotent rage radiating from him. Outside, Ana finally let herself breathe. That wasn't over? No, Dominic agreed. But it was a start. Miguel ran to them from where Declan had been watching him. Mama, did you win? We're still fighting, baby. But we're okay. Ana lifted him into her arms, held him close. We're going to be okay. That night, back at the safe house, Ana found Dominic in the small office he'd commandeered, surrounded by reports. What are you doing? She asked. Reading. He gestured to the files spread across the desk. Rodrigo Torres's complete history. Every deployment, every complaint filed. Against him, every person who's ever had reason to fear him. Dominic, I promised we'd do this your way. Legal, clean, no bodies. He looked up at her, and there was something new in his eyes. Respect, understanding. But legal doesn't mean gentle. Your ex-husband has enemies, people he's wronged. I'm finding them all, and I'm making sure every single one of them knows now is the time to speak up. Ana studied him. You're different. What do you mean? 2 weeks ago, you would have just killed him. No hesitation, no second thoughts. She moved closer. Now you're doing it the hard way, because I asked you to. Because you showed me there might be a better way. Dominic corrected. Marco would have wanted me to be this man, the man who tries legal solutions first, who shows his son. He stopped, then corrected carefully. Who shows the children around him that violence isn't always the answer. He called you Papa this morning. Miguel did. I heard. Did it bother you? Dominic was quiet for a long moment. It terrified me, he admitted, because I failed Marco so completely, because I don't know how to be a good father, because I'm still the man who puts bullets in people for a living. Ana crossed to him, took his face in her hands. You protected my son with your body. You've been patient and kind with him. You're fighting my battles the right way, even though the wrong way would be easier. She searched his eyes. That's what good fathers do. They try. Even when they're scared. Even when they don't know if they're doing it right. Ana. She kissed him. It was soft, tentative, terrifying in its honesty. Dominic froze for a moment. Then his hands came up to cup her face, kissing her back, with a gentleness that belied everything he was. When they pulled apart, Ana was crying. I'm falling for you, she whispered, and it scares me to death. I'm already there, Dominic replied. Have been since you offered your home to a stranger bleeding on your floor. What do? We fight. We win. We keep Miguel safe. He touched his forehead to hers. And then we figure out what comes next. Together. Outside, New York glittered with nighttime lights. Somewhere in the city, Rodrigo Torres was planning his next move. Somewhere, danger waited. But inside the safe house, a broken Mafia boss, a runaway mother, and a 3-year-old boy who'd decided they were family held on to each other. And for tonight, that was enough. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. One of Rodrigo's former subordinates in Brazil, a man he'd once beaten so badly the soldier lost hearing in one ear, saw the news coverage of the custody case. He contacted Marcus Levin with recordings, years of them. Rodrigo bragging about his control over Ana, discussing how to manipulate the system, even joking with fellow officers about how easy it was to make evidence disappear. He kept them as insurance, the man told Dominic over a secure video call, his scarred face tight with old rage. In case he ever needed leverage against the other corrupt cops, he never imagined they'd be used against him. The recordings were damning. Inadmissible in criminal court without proper chain of custody, but devastating in family court where the standard of evidence was lower. Combined with the medical records, the witness statements Dominic's team had gathered, and a forensic psychologist's evaluation of Miguel, which showed a child traumatized by early exposure to violence but thriving in his current environment. They had a case. More than a case. They had a weapon. The final hearing was set for a cold February morning, exactly 3 weeks after that first emergency motion. Anna dressed carefully in the safe house bedroom, her hands steadier than they'd been in weeks. Dominic watched from the doorway, admiring her strength. She'd been through hell, and she was walking back into the courthouse with her head high. "You ready?" he asked. "No." She turned to buy him, and he saw the truth in her eyes. "But I'm doing it anyway." Miguel was with Declan, playing in the safe house living room. The boy had stabilized over the past weeks. Fewer nightmares, more laughter, slowly returning to the happy child he'd been before fear became his constant companion. He'd started calling Dominic Papa Dom, the name emerging naturally one morning over breakfast. Neither adult had corrected him. At the courthouse, Rodrigo sat with his lawyer, his military posture, rigid. But there were cracks now in his facade. Dark circles under his eyes, a nervous energy that suggested things weren't going as planned. Judge Morrison entered, and the room stood. "I've reviewed all submitted evidence," she began without preamble, "including recordings provided by Mr. Torres's former colleague in Brazil. Mr. Torres, did you or did you not tell Officer Carvalho? And I quote, 'The woman's too scared to run far. If she does, I'll find her and make sure everyone believes she's crazy. No judge will give a crazy woman custody?'" Rodrigo's face went white. "That recording was obtained illegally. This isn't criminal court, Mr. Torres, and I don't take kindly to men who use the legal system as a weapon against abuse survivors." The judge's voice could have cut glass. "Mrs. Torres, full custody is granted. Mr. Torres, your parental rights are suspended pending completion of a domestic violence intervention program, psychological evaluation, and anger management courses. Supervised visitation only, and only if you complete all requirements and Mrs. Torres agrees." "Your Honor, you can't." "I can, and I have. Furthermore, I'm issuing a restraining order. You're to stay 500 feet away from Mrs. Torres, Miguel Torres, and any residence or workplace associated with them. Violation will result in immediate arrest." The gavel came down with finality. "We're adjourned." Rodrigo stood, his hands shaking with fury. For a moment, Dominic thought he might try something stupid. But Rodrigo's lawyer gripped his arm hard, whispered something urgent, and the former officer stormed out of the courtroom without looking back. Anna sat frozen in her seat, tears streaming silently down her face. "You won," Dominic said quietly beside her. "Anna, you won." "We won," she corrected, and threw her arms around him in the middle of the courthouse, not caring who saw. Outside, Miguel was waiting with Declan. The moment he saw his mother's face, he knew. "We get to stay together?" he asked, his voice very small. "Forever, baby." Anna dropped to her knees and pulled him close. "Forever and always. And Papa Dom, too?" Anna looked up at Dominic. He knelt beside them, his hand finding Miguel's shoulder. "Yeah," Dominic said, his voice rough with emotion. "Me too, if that's what you both want." "It's what we want," Anna whispered. 6 months later, on a warm August evening, Dominic stood in the doorway of what used to be his home office and was now Miguel's bedroom. The transformation had been Miguel's idea. "Papa Dom, you don't use that room," the 4-year-old had said one morning at breakfast. "Can it be mine instead?" They'd moved into Dominic's brownstone in Brooklyn Heights 3 months after the court case. Not the safe house, which had felt temporary and fearful. His actual home, the place he'd lived alone for 4 years, haunted by Marco's ghost. Anna had been hesitant at first. It's too much, she'd protested. We can find our own place. This is your place, Dominic had interrupted, if you want it to be. She'd wanted it to be. Now the brownstone felt like a home instead of a mausoleum. Miguel's toys scattered across the previously immaculate living room. Anna's nursing textbooks. She'd enrolled in a program to complete her American certification, stacked on the kitchen counter. The smell of coffee and her preferred Brazilian breakfast pastries, replacing the sterile emptiness that had defined this space for too long. And Marco's old bedroom, the one Dominic had kept locked and untouched, had become Miguel's room. Anna had asked permission first, her eyes searching his. Are you sure? I know it's time, Dominic had said, and meant it. They'd cleaned it out together, carefully packing away Marco's things. Some went to storage. Some, the favorite books, the well-loved stuffed bear, were offered to Miguel. These belonged to someone very special, Anna had explained to the boy. Papa Dom's son, who lived here before. He wants you to have them, if you'd like. Miguel had accepted the bear with the seriousness of a child who understood the weight of such a gift. I'll take good care of him, he'd promised Dominic. I'll tell him stories so he doesn't get lonely. Now the room was painted a cheerful blue. Miguel's bed, a real twin bed, no more mattress on the floor, occupied one wall. Shelves held books and toys. A small desk waited for when he started kindergarten in September. And on the nightstand, Marco's bear sat beside Miguel's beloved trunks, 2 generations of comfort keeping watch. Miguel was already asleep, one arm around each stuffed animal. Dominic pulled the blanket higher, smoothed the boy's dark hair back from his forehead. Sleep well, kiddo, he whispered. Then, softer, toward the ceiling, toward wherever Marco might be. Thank you for sharing your room, and for teaching me it's never too late. He found Anna in their bedroom. Their bedroom, another adjustment. That still felt surreal, sitting at the window seat overlooking the garden. She'd changed into comfortable clothes after her shift at the hospital, where she now worked days in the pediatric unit. Miguel stayed with Mrs. Chen, the neighbor from their old building who'd moved to Brooklyn specifically to remain close to her boy. He went down easy? Anna asked as Dominic joined her on the window seat. Told me about his day, asked if we could go to the park tomorrow, said he loved us both, then passed out mid-sentence. Dominic wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Pretty standard 4-year-old behavior, apparently. According to what parenting book? According to you. You said that exact thing last week. Anna laughed, leaning into him. I can't believe this is real sometimes. That we're here, safe, together. That Rodrigo's actually gone. Rodrigo had violated the restraining order once, 3 months ago. Had shown up at Anna's hospital, demanding to see her. Hospital security had called the police. He'd spent 2 weeks in jail for contempt of court, and his supervised visitation rights had been permanently revoked. The last they'd heard, he'd returned to Brazil, his reputation in tatters, his connections unwilling to protect him anymore. Do you miss it? Dominic asked quietly. Brazil? I miss what it could have been. The life I thought I'd have. Anna was quiet for a moment. But this, you, Miguel, this home, this is better than anything I could have imagined back then. Even with the whole Mafia boss thing? Even with that. She turned to face him. You know what Miguel asked me yesterday? What? He asked if you were a superhero. Said his friend at daycare has a dad who's a firefighter, and that's like being a hero. So maybe you're a hero too since you saved us. Anna's eyes were soft. I told him yes. You're our hero. Dominic's throat tightened. I'm not. You are. She kissed him, gentle and certain. You're not perfect. You still solve too many problems with intimidation. You still keep secrets about your business. But you chose us. You chose a different way. That makes you a hero in my book. I chose you because I couldn't do anything else, Dominic admitted. From the moment Miguel looked at me with those big eyes in the hospital, from the moment you offered your home to a stranger, I was lost. You became my second chance. Both of you. So what do we do with second chances? We don't waste them. He touched her face, marveling at how different his life looked now. I've been thinking about making things official. Anna's breath caught. Official how? There's a ring in my nightstand drawer. Has been for 2 weeks. I keep trying to find the perfect moment. And then I realized. He pulled back slightly, meeting her eyes. Every moment with you is perfect. So, Ana Beatriz Silva, will you marry me? Will you let me be Miguel's father legally, officially? Will you build this second chance life with me? She was crying, laughing, nodding all at once. Yes, to all of it. Yes. He kissed her properly then, tasting salt and joy and the future they were building together. When they pulled apart, Ana was grinning. You know Miguel's going to lose his mind when we tell him. Good. Kid deserves to lose his mind over something happy for once. They sat together in the window seat as the August evening deepened into night, the brownstone quiet around them. Downstairs, the kitchen where Ana taught Miguel to make brigadeiros. The living room where Dominic read bedtime stories. The garden where they'd planted tomatoes that Miguel checked obsessively every morning. It wasn't the life Dominic had planned. It wasn't the life Ana had dreamed of. But it was theirs, built from trauma and loss and a chance encounter on the worst night of their lives. Built from choosing each other, day after day, even when it would have been easier to walk away. Marco would never come back. The 4 years of grief would never disappear. But maybe, Dominic thought, this was what healing looked like. Not forgetting the past, but learning to live fully in the present, to be the father Miguel needed, the partner Ana deserved, the man he should have been all along. In the morning, they'd tell Miguel about the engagement. He'd probably demand a castle-themed wedding, knowing his current obsession. Ana would laugh and negotiate. Dominic would agree to whatever made them happy. But tonight, in the quiet darkness of the home, they'd built together. They simply held each other. Two broken people who'd found each other in the chaos. A mother who'd learned to trust again. A father who'd learned it was never too late for redemption. And upstairs, a 4-year-old boy slept peacefully, surrounded by love, never knowing how close he'd come to a different life. Never knowing that his innocent question, "Sir, can you stay with us? Bad men might come back," had changed everything. Sometimes salvation comes from unexpected places. Sometimes the most dangerous man in the city becomes a shield instead of a sword. Sometimes love grows in the ruins of trauma and becomes something beautiful. Sometimes miracles look like a Mafia boss kneeling to a child's level and promising, "I'll keep you safe." Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is trust again after we've been broken. Ana trusted a stranger in her moment of deepest need. Dominic trusted that he could be more than his worst choices. And Miguel, with the wisdom only children possess, trusted that the world still held good people even in dark places. Second chances aren't given. They're built. Brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day. They're built by people who refuse to let their past define their future, who choose love over fear, hope over despair, healing over hiding. Maybe that's what all of us are really searching for. Not perfection, not the absence of pain, just someone willing to see us at our worst and stay anyway. Someone willing to fight for us when we're too tired to fight for ourselves. Someone who proves that the end of one story can be the beginning of something better. If this story touched something in you, We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever given someone a second chance? Has someone given one to you? Your stories matter to us. Hit like to support emotional journeys like this one, and subscribe to Crimson Salvation. We bring you new stories of redemption, love, and second chances every single day. Before you go, check out the next video on screen, or explore our playlist for more tales of hope found in the darkest places. Thank you for being here tonight, for believing that broken people can heal, for believing that love can bloom even in the ruins. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, and remember, it's never too late to become the person you were meant to be. Good night.